The Romans used crucifixion as a punishment for mainly two cases. First, runaway slaves. The Roman society was based on slavery, and slaves needs to be intimidated. Runaway slaves knew that if the Roman will catch them, they will be crucified. Maybe you heard about the Spartacus rebellion. Spartacus was a gladiator who led a revolt against the Romans. In the year of 71 BC, when the Romans finally suppressed the rebellion, about 6,000 slaves were crucified on both sides of the main road from Capua to Rome. The second case was freedom fighters, rebels. Everybody knew if you dare to rebel against the Romans and they will catch you, you will be crucified. Josephus, the Roman Jewish historian, tells us that in one of the days, the Romans crucified over 1,600 rebels, Jewish fighters from the Galilee at Jerusalem. Maybe you want to remember three things about crucifixion. The first thing about crucifixion, it was a spectacle, it was a show. The purpose of crucifixion was to terrorize the people so they will be submissive. You do the crucifixion on a public area, on a high place that everybody will see. And when people walk by, when they look up and they see the crucified person, they will think to themselves, I don't want to be this guy, I better be submissive. So first, a spectacle, a show. Number two, it was slow and painful death on the cross. Super painful and slow. According to the testimonies we have, the people were crucified to a wooden cross on the same position until they die. And sometimes it can take a day or 2 days or even 3 days. Josephus wrote, if you give the person the water, they can survive on the cross up to 6 days. The third thing you want to remember about crucifixion, it was a humiliation. Not only taking his life, but also taking his dignity. The person was undressed and everything was done as he completely naked in public, horrible, torturing, and the crucifixion on the cross was a humiliation ceremony. And after the person was already dead, they didn't let the people to bury the body. They were just left over there as a food for the jackals and the vultures, and eventually they couldn't even give him a proper burial. So horrible humiliation, slow and painful death on the cross, and a spectacle, a show. Jesus was tried in Jerusalem on the scourging floor, probably outside the Antonia fortress, the barracks and the palace of the Roman legion at Jerusalem. After the flagellation, and in Jesus' case it was not just whips, but also scorpions. It means whips with hooks that actually tear the flesh from the body. The person was tied to the cross, not like you see in some of the movies when you have the full cross, but only the horizontal cross beam. And the person is tied with his hands to the wood beam, and he have to do his journey through the streets of the city, outside of the city. Jesus was so horribly tortured, he couldn't even carry his own cross. And the Romans had to nominate somebody. A Jew, Simon from Cyrene, was forced by the Romans to help Jesus carry the cross. When they came out of the city, outside the main gate, next to the main road, on a high hill that everybody will see, in a place called Golgotha, in Aramaic, the skull, Golgotha, the skull. Over there, they nailed him to the cross. The crucifixion itself was made by a special unit, special Roman army unit of 4 soldiers and 1 centurion that supervised the crucifixion. The Romans took nails, and archaeologists in Jerusalem discovered one of those nails still stuck in the bone of a skeleton that was crucified. The nail was about 5 to 7 inches, and you nail the person to the vertical wood beam that was lying on the floor. The Romans, with hammers, nailed the person either here or here. Apparently, the most painful part of the whole crucifixion was as the Roman soldiers were pulling the ropes and placing the pole right on the spot. The victims used to scream as their entire body weight is hang on those nails. The death on the cross can be from several reasons. The main reason probably was suffocation. In order to breathe, the victim have to push himself by the edge of his toes so he can expand his chest to get some air in. But how long a person can do that? So apparently for quite long. People were very strong, and if you have a strong will to live, you can last for a day, for 2, or for 3 days. Sometimes the Roman soldiers wanted to hasten the death of the victims by breaking the tibia bone, and then the person cannot push himself by the edge of the toes, and he will die after a few minutes from suffocation. But that was not the case with Yeshua. He was so horribly tortured and he was so exhausted, so he died on the same day on the cross with no broken bones. When John first saw Jesus coming to be baptized at the Jordan River, he said, "Here come the Lamb of God." The Lamb of God, like the Lamb of Passover, must be sacrificed with no broken bones.